As many of you guys know, I did a video about a week and a half ago on my power rankings for Worlds 2022. This was right here, all of my old rankings, but the video was recorded and posted before the LCS or the LEC semis or finals had happened. So as you can see, a lot of this stuff is kind of all out of whack. Like Rogue at 16th. At the time of me making the video, I thought that Rogue was going to get stomped by Fnatic in semis, and then Fnatic was going to lose to G2 in finals. As we know, that's not what happened. Rogue 3-1 Fnatic and then 3-0 G2, so like that needs to change. Some other stuff just happened here and there, and I've been getting a lot of comments of people asking me to do an updated videos ranking, or like, what are your updated thoughts, or explain more in detail why you have Gigabyte Marines at 7, right? So a lot of people asking me to do some updated rankings, so I figured I'd just go through, now that we've seen all of the games, now that the TCL team has been locked, now that I've actually watched the Latin American playoffs a little bit more, we can do some updated power rankings and then just kind of settle everything. Also, another big thing that happened was that they released the Worlds patches 12.17, 12.18, so we know what the champion changes are, we know what the meta might look like, so that would change around a little bit of the rankings. Since my entire ranking is here, I think it's fine to just go with what we already know. So JDG is still number 1, right? Like, so what we get from the meta is that a lot of the key ADCs are being nerfed, some topside champions are getting buffed, some of the mid lane champions are getting nerfed, so it's leaning towards a potential roaming mid and then topside carry meta. And with that in mind, JDG is still definitely first. The thing about JDG in the past was that it was like, okay, Hope and Missing can stabilize the bot lane. Yagao, Kanavi, 369 are the carries, right? And they pulled that off when it was the bot-centric meta. And if it switches to a topside meta where 369 can pick carries, JDG is just going to look better in my opinion, because Hope and Missing are already kind of on weak side duty a little bit. And so they can keep doing what they were doing, and then JDG can excel even more. So I still have JDG number 1. Some people aren't gonna like this, but number 2, I'm actually moving up top esports ahead of Gen.G. The main reason for that is, again, if you think about the meta and you look at Gen.G's team, not to say that Doran is a bad player by any means, because Doran is still a really good player. And if you saw, like, for example, the spring LCK finals, you know that Doran has an insane Akali that he can whip out. So like there are some carry champions that he can play, but I think it's fairly obvious that Doran is the weakest link on the team. And if the meta is going to be playing towards him and he's going to be the carry, I don't know if Gen.G is going to be that best team in the tournament. So I'm moving them below top esports. Top esports, on the other hand, again, I'm still a little bit confused as to why Jintian was subbed in for a game over Wayward. It seems to me like there might be something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, personality-wise or mental health-wise or something along those lines, which makes me feel weird about top esports. Assuming Wayward plays, Wayward has been looking pretty insane all season. A lot of faith in him. And then, of course, if you don't have Jackie Love being the sole carry on your game, that's always a sigh of relief, because Jackie Love has always been the sink or swim player, right? He's always the will carry your team or will lose your team the entire game. So probably getting him off of the main carry role will be a comfort for the team. Not to say that Jackie Love can't carry, because he definitely can. But historically, yeah, Jackie Love is a little bit of a suspicious player sometimes. All right, so that leads me to number 4. I still have RNG. Again, I kind of touched on this before, but I feel like the team has been recently kind of finding their footing with Breathe. They had an entire split to work with him. Felt like near the end of playoffs they were figuring it out. I enjoy RNG. Also, if you don't know, if you haven't seen it, when Breathe was on WE, and I think 2021, he was literally like he was the super carry top of WE, like single-handedly brought them to that 5th place finish, carried every single game. Then he leaves the team, WE becomes the worst team in the LPL. Like, it's just, Breathe is an insane carry, and if he gets the chance to carry, he will pop off, and it will be a shock to everybody, and he will be one of the best tops in the world, if not the best. So RNG is definitely a team to look out for. I have them 4th. After that, okay, I got some complaints about my placement for EDG and Damwon specifically, but we'll get to that, because next I still have T1. I mean, there's not much to say about T1 at this point. Like, they're still the same roster that popped off in spring. Zeus is probably their best player right now, and if the meta leans towards him, that's really good. Then we are going to have not G2 here, but I'm actually, this is going to be a little bit weird, but I'm going to have Dom1 here. Recently, I've kind of been leaning towards Dom1 lately, because the reason why Dom1 didn't do so hot before was because you would have Noguri on these random tank picks that he just didn't know how to play. Like, you would have him on Sejuani and he would lose really badly. But again, we've seen what he can do, like on FPX in 2021 in the LPL, or 2020 on Damwon, where he would play Kennen and then everybody was absolutely terrified of him. He was the best top in the world at the time, right? In a carry top meta, Nuguri is definitely a force to be reckoned with. And then you just look at their other players, right? You look at Canyon Showmaker, and it's like, yeah, they've been on a slump, but it's the World Championship. How can you not think that they're going to get it together somehow? And then Dokdom and Kellen have been not super impressive this year, but I still think back to Nongshim in 2021 and how Dokdom and Kellen would just straight up carry them. And Dokdom was the weak side player back then. I just feel like the meta's really going to favor Damwon, and all of a sudden I just have this resurgence where I think that maybe they can do it. After Damwon, I'm going to have EDG. And then Gigabyte Marines. Look, as much as people want to complain about it, they are not kicking Gigabyte Marines out of the top 10 on my list. I'm delusional, and until I see the VCS go 06 in groups, I'm going to continue to think that they're better than NA and EU. I don't know, it's just a me thing, but we haven't been able to see them in international competitions for a really long time. Just something to point out is that, again, Saigon Buffalo was at MSI, but they did not win the VCS, right? It was Gigabyte Marines who won the VCS. The VCS 2 seed goes to MSI, and then Gigabyte Marines went to the SEA Games and won. You know, they have Levi. I think, personally, I think Levi is a top 5 jungler at Worlds this year, and I just have a lot of faith in Gigabyte Marines to pull through, but we'll see if it happens. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe the VCS is a hell of a lot weaker than I think they are, but I am going to put aside the VCS copium a little bit, and I will let EDG in front of them. I mean, the main thing with EDG is that I really don't want to see a meta where Flandre has to carry them, because it's not what the team wants to do. Flandre did have a super impressive Lucian top last year, but apart from that, he really wasn't too crazy. And if you're going to have a player like Viper, who's arguably the best ADC at the tournament, and he's going to be on weak side, it's just not the best look for the team. And then also there was the roster instability with JJ and Gen.G, so you don't know who's playing a jungle, you don't know how the team's feeling. But at the end of the day, it's still the world champions, and they still looked super impressive in LPL playoffs, so I can't knock them too much, and putting them below Gigabyte Marines might have been a little bit weird. In 9th, I'm going C9. I was already kind of high on C9 before, but I'm really feeling it. I don't know, something about the Oregon and playoffs coming around. They looked super dominant in LCS playoffs. I think that Berserker Sven is a fantastic bot lane. Fudge is an amazing top laner. Blabber is an amazing jungler, and Jensen is a good mid laner, right? So I think C9 has what it takes. They're in a tough group, right? They're against EDG and T1. Really, it's not the worst group in the world, I don't think. Like, I think C9 can do it, and that might be way too much copium, but I think they can do it. I think that out of the NA teams, C9 has the best shot to get out of the groups, because there's no way 100 Thieves is making it out of that group. I'm sorry. I don't know. If you were going to place your hopes in a North American team to make it to quarterfinals, it would be C9. And I think that they definitely have a really high potential ceiling. Fudge and Berserker specifically, we just don't know how good they can get. They could be absolute monsters in the making, and this could be the tournament where they pop off. We'll see. I mean, again, I gave C9 12th before they won semifinals and finals, and now that they have had these dominant performances, I'm just more convinced that their team's going to figure it out. In 10th, I'm going to have Rogue. Again, a similar scenario where they have pretty handedly won the LEC semifinals and finals, and I'm feeling better about their team. I can't even say that they're chokers anymore because they won, so they don't choke anymore. I'm wondering if maybe this was the hurdle they needed to pass over to finally be that kind of insane team. So we'll see how it goes. If it is a carry top meta, I feel like that does not favor Rogue, because Rogue wants to play through Comp and Trimby, and Odoamne is more of a weak side player from what I've seen. Maybe Otoame is a crazy carry. I just haven't seen it in the last couple of years. But I still feel like Rogue overall are feeling pretty solid. It does feel a little bit weird to me having the LEC number 1 seed underneath of the LCS 1 seed, because usually that would just never happen. But I do feel really good about C9, and I don't feel too crazy about Rogue. Even though they won, I still had them as 16th in my initial ranking, so I was pretty cold on them, and it's going to take more than just 2 series to change my mind completely. In 11th, I'm going to have G2. I think that the new meta is extremely favoring G2. Like, if we're going to be playing in a topside meta with G2's roster, that is just a huge step up. Flackid has kind of shown that, I mean, Flackid's an okay Draven player from what I've seen. He had a few Draven games where he looked really good, but for the most part, it seemed like he could not pilot Draven and Kalista effectively enough to be the sole carrier on the team. Like, there was the game against Rogue where the Draven just straight up got like the 1k cash in on Malrog or something, and then G2 still couldn't win. I feel like veering away from a bot side meta and towards a top side meta is really good for them. So even though they got 3-0'd by Rogue, I'm gonna put them right next to Rogue, which seems a little bit odd, but I feel like it's the right spot for their roster. I mean, they have Jankos and Caps, and those two seem to always show up come tournament time. So we'll just have to see how that goes, but I still feel strongly about G2 to put them in top half. In 12th, and getting bumped up a spot, is CFO. The main thing about CFO is that their best player, at least from what I can tell, their best player is their top laner Rest. And then so I'm bumping up CFO a slot purely because of the possible meta shift towards topside, is that if Rest is going to be the one carrying the team, that's probably their best look that they could have. And I feel slightly more confident about them, so I'm moving them up a slot. Like, if you watch the PCS finals, Rest, well, not the finals, the semifinals, Rest pretty much just hard gapped Hanabi, and Hanabi is a really, really good top laner. He's been in multiple international competitions, played against the best, stabilized against the best. If you're getting gapped like that, then Rest must be pretty damn good. So I have some faith in CFO that they can do okay. Then in 13th, I'm going to have Fnatic. Fnatic did get 3-1'd by Rogue, but at the same time, they were kind of forced into a mage versus Larson situation, because Humanoid had that super pop-off game on Sylas in game 1. And so I haven't completely lost faith in Fnatic, actually. I think that if Humanoid can unleash, then Fnatic will do really well. And if we're moving away from that kind of control versus control mage matchup, that's a pretty good look for Fnatic. And also, they have players like Hylissang who always step up internationally, Wonder, so they've got the players to do it, and they now have a better meta to do it, so we'll see how that works out. And I don't think that them dropping 3-1 to Rogue means that they move down super far. All right, next I'm going DRX. I'm really low on DRX. I don't think they're a very good team. They have big names like Deft, Barrel, but they've got this weird problem in the jungle where Pyosik hasn't really been doing all that well. I just don't really see DRX making it all that far. If they make quarterfinals, I'll be really surprised. They were like only the 6th best team in LCK in my opinion, and it's kind of a shock that they're here at all. So until DRX proves otherwise, I don't really like their chances. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that if they don't make it out of play-ins, I would not be super surprised. If I did play-ins predictions, I would have DRX making it out. But if they don't, I will not be shocked. So DRX, only 14th. Not really the greatest team to me. Next, I've got Saigon Buffalo. Their team, we saw them at MSI. They looked pretty solid. Didn't look as good as the major regions. I already talked about them in the last video. That's kind of enough said on that. Next, we've got EG. Impact has been pretty solid all year round. One of the best tops in LCS. So I think that he'll be able to carry, but if you're going to have mental issues with Danny and you don't know whether you're playing Danny or Kaori, it's a little bit weird. And so I don't know how comfortable I am with putting EG any higher than this anymore. If you think back to some of their other series in playoffs, like against TSM, they did not look very good. They looked like minor region level. But then at the same time, if you look at some of the things that they're doing in MSI, like against RNG, when let's say JoJo has a really pop-off Ari game, for example, against RNG, all of a sudden EG looks crazy. So it's kind of hard to pin down the roster, but I feel like they're looking a little bit unstable right now, and I don't want to put them very high. 17 and 18 are going to look the same. Mad 100 Thieves. I think that Mad is still a pretty like solid team all around, nothing too crazy, but Armut as the main carry is going to look a little bit shaky. And then for 100 Thieves, I feel like Someday has been really inflexible. He's been playing an obscene amount of Aatrox, for example, so I don't know how his champion pool is doing. I also know that he's thinking about retiring this year, so I don't know, like, he must not think that he's in his prime anymore. FBI and Huhi, people always point towards as one of 100 Thieves' bigger strengths, and if those two aren't going to get to carry, then it's going to be up to Closer to carry. So we'll have to see how that goes. Closer can be a pretty good carry, but I feel like 100 Thieves have been not very proactive on the map all year, and I'm not sure if they'll be able to make any impact on the tournament. Now we can kind of speed through the minor regions here. In general, it's mostly still looking the same. I think Loud is the best team from those minor regions. I've been really impressed by how they've been looking all season. They had like a massive rally to end. They were 6-6, and then they were 12-6, and then they 3-0'd finals. So they've just been on an upswing the entire time. I'm bumping Oceania up. I feel like the Chiefs is the best team Oceania has ever sent to any event ever. It's pretty much like the Osh super team. And if you think back to past events, like Pentanet made it out of... Pentanet was better than the CIS when they beat Unicorns of Love in a tiebreaker to make it to the Rumble stage at MSI. Peace that year, they went like 2-2 in play-ins. So Oceania seems to be slightly better than all the other minor regions, and the team that they're sending seems to be a lot more solid than the other teams, so I'm bumping them up that slot. Then we're going DFM. DFM, again, they don't have Arya, but they do still have a lot of the remaining players. If Evi's going to be in the carry position, I think DFM are looking really good, because Evi can carry games, so he'll be exciting to watch if it ends up being a topside meta. After that, we're going to have Beyond Gaming, then Isarus, then IW. So it really hurts me. Actually, I can't even do it. I can't even do it. Look, I watched the Latin American playoffs. They did not look impressive. Isarus especially were doing some really weird things, like missing random Ornolds, opting into 2v3s, random stuff like that. I was not impressed by their gameplay at all. And LLA has historically been like one of the worst minor regions. If it's not Gillette Infinity, then it's probably not going to look very good. So I don't have a lot of faith in them. I do still enjoy IW somewhat. Like, they still have Starscreen. I love Starscreen. I don't think that they've kind of let me down in the past. Like, historically, they went 1-5 in their MSI group the one time, and then they either went 0-6 or 1-5 the next year. So they've not shown up to international events in the past, and I don't know if they'll do it again. But they have shown enough promise that I don't want to put them last. And then, of course, Beyond Gaming from the PCS. PCS was pretty stacked this year, but Beyond Gaming was like 5th seed or 6th seed or something, and were kind of expected to just lose the tournament outright. I don't know how they made it at all. And they got 3-0'd in the finals. So I don't think they're a very strong team. And so that's going to do it. This is my new updated rankings, hopefully final rankings before Worlds rolls around. Looks pretty similar to my old rankings, with only just a few minor differences, moving people up and down a couple slots here and there. But I hope that this satisfies all of the people who wanted my new rankings after the LCS and LEC tournaments, and as well as the TCL slot getting locked. Yeah, that's all I got. Peace.